Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Friday Life Factory for March. And today we have Amir Saleh with us. Starting a business can be a daunting task, especially when it comes to raising capital. This is especially true in Iraq, where the entrepreneurial ecosystem is still in its early stages and access to funding can be limited. However, despite these challenges, there are still many opportunities for innovative startups to succeed and thrive in Iraq. Today, we will be exploring the different ways that entrepreneurs can raise capital, the challenges that they may face, and the strategies they can use to overcome. And who can it be better than Amir to talk about it? He's an Iraqi entrepreneur, startup and investment enthusiast, and the founder and CEO of IQ Cars, the largest internet marketplace platform for cars in Iraq. With over 10 years of experience in the automotive industry, Amir has become a leading figure in the field of automotive marketing and entrepreneurship in Iraq. It's a pleasure to have you, Amir, and thank you for joining us. Please
Thank you.
tell us about yourself, IQ Cars, and what made you start this.
Thank you. Basically, I have a software engineering background, and I also did a lot of marketing while I was studying and also after I graduated.
Okay.
So when I started in the automotive industry, it kind of became a natural match with the marketing and software engineering, and I love do starting businesses. So it became a very natural step for me to, and Iraq started to have this change towards digital transformation with online services. So I thought it was a good time to start doing it. Um, yeah.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. So, how much have you raised for IQ Cars until now? And when
Uh,
was your last round of investment?
my last round was actually, it took only 6 months after we launched the app. We got our first pre-seed round, and we are currently right now in a bridge round to seed round, and combined both of them are in the seven figures.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Okay. Thanks for sharing that and congratulations
thank
on
you.
achieving that benchmark. So, what would you say are some challenges that startups in Iraq face when trying to raise investment capital, according to your experience, and how can they overcome these challenges?
Well, I think I've seen a from my perspective, a lot of these startups don't have a clear business plan, or they lack a very strong business plan. You cannot just start a business based on having huge traction, having huge users. Down the line, you need to think about how you're going to finance the project, because it's very costly to, people don't think about it, but if you have let's say 500,000 people on your app, that's going to cost you money in terms of bandwidth. You need to provide support, you need staff. So you're going to spend a lot of money on running the startup, and without a proper business plan to how to monetize your project, it will be very hard. And I see from a lot of these new startups or previous startups, they lack the proper business plan on how to generate revenue enough to make it investment worthy for investors.
Definitely. And the business plan also allows founders and startups themselves to know more about themselves and have a clear idea. So, definitely having that is a key. Thanks for sharing that. So, how do investors typically approach evaluating potential investments? And what are some of the key factors they consider, especially in Iraq? And according to your experience, what do you think that they look at?
Well, if the startup is hasn't gained huge traction, let's say it's very new, it's very doesn't have any proper huge use fan base or use base. So you have to approach the investors yourself, and you have to find the right fit for your business to see approach them. But if you do have a good startup where you have huge traction and you can show that you're committed to the project.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what um, investors do not invest in startups when they see the founder has multiplied jobs or is not fully dedicated, or there are some other issues. The investors have to feel that their money is safe. This is one of the key aspects that many people don't understand is investors, they invest money for money growth, not for for startup growth. They're
Yeah.
looking down the road to have some return on the investments, and this
Yeah.
is how that's how you have to think when you have a startup and you want investors. You want to show them this is how we're going to make money in 2 years, and I'm basing all this assumption on these factors, and you have to present it to them, and they have to be believable uh, for them to invest.
Yeah. No, that's very true. A lot of founders, they don't give importance to sales or generating revenue,
Yeah.
and clearly explaining and showing the investors how they could get their money back. And definitely, yeah, that's a key point that you shared, and your experience says that, of course, uh, that we need to focus on that, and only then investors will show interest in investing in your startup. So, coming to the government policies and regulations, what role do you think they play in facilitating or hindering investments in startups in Iraq specifically, and what changes could be made to improve this climate?
Well, I think if you talk to any startup in Iraq, especially the established ones, they all have the same opinion. The government basically is asleep. They have no idea what's going on in the startup community. I don't think they take the startup community very seriously. I'm hopeful that it will change soon, but there are a lot of hinders from the government that, well, basically there are many multiply issues for investors. Basically, our corporate laws are very old. They're
Mm,
not fitted for the new modern world of finance and corporate structure.
mm,
The ownership requirement that it has to be owned, a company has to be owned by a national Iraqi as a majority, which is also very counterproductive for investors to invest. Also, there, like the tax process is not. If you want to be a fully compliant startup, basically following all the rules and laws and policies of the government, is very complex and
mm,
very old system. So, and there's basically no incentives. I mean, if you compare to look at Saudi Arabia, look at Jordan, look at United Arab Emirates. There's a lot of huge initiatives by the government to help the startup communities. I mean, they are all over the place. I'm pretty sure you've seen them. They hire specific spaces for the startups to showcase their products outside of the country. They created an environment where startup registering a startup is very easy. Registering company is easy. There's a lot of effort you can see from other countries, but unfortunately we don't see this here. And I don't know. I hope someday they will actually listen to the founders and see what the issues are. And this is a major issue, by the way. I mean, the tech startup could potentially bring a lot of income and create a lot of jobs for the country. And basically, if you open the TV channels and listen to the government, it's basically farmers and agriculture that is very focused on oil, not so much about tech startups. And I think basically they don't know how it works, and they don't know how big effect it could have on society if we have successful startups in Iraq.
Yes, that is such an important point that you made. And that's one reason why we also started as Iraqi Innovators to focus and amplify the voices of startups, founders, entrepreneurs in Iraq, because this is what will actually get this economy going as fast as possible rather than anything else. And there is a lot of potential in the people in Iraq. It's just the support and the the ecosystem is not very supportive, which doesn't make a lot of people flourish. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. So taking this takes me to the next question is about what are some of the alternative sources of funding that, according to you, startups in Iraq could consider aside from the traditional VCs or angel investors?
I think, well, already we are very limited in terms
Mm,
of VCs. There are a very limited number of active VCs with focus on Iraq.
yeah.
I've talked to dozens of VCs, and most of them, as soon as they know it's Iraq market, they're
Mm,
not interested. They could invest in many other countries in Asia, in Middle East, but not Iraq.
yeah.
Simple. I don't know if it's yeah, well, basically, yeah, the corporate, the government regulations is one of them, but I think it's not the main one. I think there's an issue with the Iraq, stigma about being problematic and conflict.
Mm,
But sourcing, I mean, well, basically, finding angel investors is the only option you have other than the established VCs in Iraq.
yeah.
Then looking out from other VCs close to Iraq, where they have invested in similar businesses as yours, or just calling, contacting them as much as you can. But it's tough. It's not easy. It's really, really tough.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're trying to say, and because of the impression Iraq has across as well has makes investors hesitant to invest, but it's not in reality as bad as it looks on the outside. There are things happening like how IQ Cars is functioning. There are a lot of other startups who are doing different and achieving goals and uh, starting like a lot of startups on their own. So there is an ecosystem which is building and there is space for startups to grow. It's just the support is needed and the narrative has to change. So yes, we will get there inshallah, but one step at a time. um, so how do you balance the need for investment with the potential risks involved in investing in a relatively unstable region, I would say, like Iraq?
Well, I this is very interesting. From my personal experience from meeting some VCs, when you talk about Iraq, they have no clue how big it is. We're talking about soon Iraq will be the largest population in the Middle East,
Yeah,
surpassing Saudi Arabia within maybe 4 or 5 years.
yeah.
It is one of the fastest growing economy in the region,
Yeah.
and basically they have no idea about Iraq. It's simply not on the map,
Mm,
Iraq for them.
mm,
So the only way to do it is I think many founders that I talk to, they also found themselves when during the VC meetings, you spend 60, 70% of the time explaining the Iraq, promoting Iraq as an
country.
invest worthy country, and you spend 30 or 40% on explaining your own business. So the first hint is to explain how Iraq market works, and that's a very important element as a founder to go create the metrics you want to present to investors, so they can have a good understanding about your business, about the potential growth, about the potential return uh, in Iraq market. That's one of the main issues. And the other potential, like explaining, I think from a investor's point of view, is there's low competition compared to other countries. It means there's a lot of room to grow very fast with low cost. It's because the more competitors you have, the higher your cost becomes to acquire new customers or users for your application or startup. So it's very cheap to invest basically in Iraq, and your returns will be much bigger than from outside countries. Yeah,
Definitely. What an important matter. The two key things you mentioned, one is the growing population of Iraq, which is the key, and the second is low cost of investment for investors. So, investors take note of this and do invest in Iraq, startups in Iraq, because it is a growing economy. It is an attractive economy. You just need to know the reality of what is happening and how things are working.
yeah,
The media has projected Iraq in a very unstable way, and it still is, but that's not the reality. It was many years ago, but it has changed and evolved,
yeah.
for sure.
I mean, this is also like I think everybody have seen proper video ads online from different countries where they're promoting. I mean, Portugal is one of those countries that completely changed, and even with a very weak economy, they managed to create the startup community very quickly and change the complete economy of the country.
Yeah,
It's the government needs to step up and create the environment. This is it, and promote Iraq as an invest worthy country, and that's where we can change the perspective from a war torn, problem conflict ridden country to a more stable and progressive country.
absolutely. So yeah, definitely we'll get there, inshallah, and we are trying to promote this. Um, the next question that I want to ask you is about incubators and accelerators. Uh, I'm aware that IQ Cars has not been part of any incubator or accelerator, but in your opinion, what role can they play in supporting the growth and funding of startups in Iraq? Do you think, have you missed out on anything, and how can founders access these resources?
To be honest, I when I started IQ Cars, I didn't even know they existed.
Okay.
I'm terribly sorry, but it was 2020. So I was so focused on finalizing launching the app with my team, and we were working so hard. So we were not. I was not even focused on incubators, and I had invested some of my own money in the company. So I was not very fixated on being part of incubator. And it, the thing is, they play a major role. I mean, these events, these incubators, these accelerators, it's very good for bringing young people into the in the mindset of a startup community. I mean, it's not just about they don't need to have a startup by the end of the road, but they will understand the technology. Maybe they will join in a startup. However, I wish I could see more talent coming from the incubators by providing people who are very good at, if you look at example PayPal or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, they all came from different other startups. And I tell a lot of people who wants to do startup, young people, and they want to have their own startup, and I can see that they're not ready. I recommend, like, if you have a plan to have your own startup, why not join a startup? Don't think about some my idea is going to go away. No, actually, when you come into a startup, you understand very quickly the challenges, the needs, and how to think as a startup. It's the best way to create more mature startups.
Mm,
So I think I would love to see even furthermore organizations or to enhance the be enhance the startup ecosystem in Iraq, because we need it tremendously. And just like this event example could be very good for other young startup founders that want to to succeed in their business.
Yes, for sure. This a point you mentioned about being very protective of the idea is
Yeah.
very much in people who want to start their business, which
Yes.
doesn't get them anywhere, but just leaves that idea to an idea and not
Well,
into execution.
I strongly believe if you're sitting with the idea, there's probably 2,000 people like in the same region as you, has the same exact idea as you. And from these 2,000, probably there's 100 that are making plans to make it happen. And from this number, you have maybe 20 who actually started, and
Yeah.
probably there are five others that already are building it. So,
Mm.
but it doesn't make I'm not afraid for people to stealing ideas, because the execution is more important than the idea itself.
Yeah.
You can always give an idea. I've seen a lot of ideas being implemented, that are copied from other startups from outside of Iraq, but they didn't manage to make the perfect fit for the Iraqi market.
Yeah.
So, but if you have the idea and you make it to a perfection in terms of execution, not just
Mhm.
idea, then you can easily beat any competitors.
Yeah. And also tell the audience about how idea evolves through time as well. It's not what you thought in the beginning stays as it is.
Correct.
It's just how people respond or customers respond makes you change where you're taking the company to. So I know your experience would be very immense, like, so just share that as well, because people think, okay, this is the idea, this is how I'm going to do it, and I want to protect this. It's not that way. It just grows and evolves.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we changed. I changed, like IQ cars. Even when we launched it, we were totally focused on the car dealerships. They
Mm,
will be dedicated only for car dealerships.
mm,
But soon we realized the private sector is very, very important, and they wanted to also be part of this. And from
mm.
that, we went to include private, and from there we will take to the next step. So once you're in it, you have to be flexible about the idea and know that your idea might change and improve, which is not bad. I mean, it's just you become more mature in understanding the segment you are in, the business you're in.
Yes. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Um, we did speak a lot about investments. Let's come to cars now.
Yeah.
So, how does the process of financing in a car in Iraq differ from
Mm.
other countries? And what are some common misconceptions about car financing in Iraq, in your
Well,
opinion?
the difference from car financing from Iraq and other countries is tremendously big. I mean, you in Saudi Arabia, I'm not talking very far away, or in Dubai or in Saudi Arabia, you can basically buy a car online without even leaving your home.
Yeah.
It's all done within a few minutes, and your car is delivered the next day in front of your door. I wish to see this in Iraq, but I don't see it in the next 2 3 years or 5 years even. There's we're working actually on auto finance. So we to learn to do auto finance, we need to understand the auto finance, and to understand auto finance, you need to understand the banking system in Iraq. And the banking system is whoever works in the banking, who is involved in some kind of a finance in Iraq,
Yeah.
knows it's extremely difficult. The regulations change; they're not up to date. One of the major hassles is verifying users online, and I know KRG is developing online identification. That could be a very good step towards verifying users online. And
Mm.
now the reason I'm mentioning car finance online, because I believe the traditional banks will never be able to, my perspective, if they keep going on like this, they will never be able to provide or be a true player in the automotive financing business.
Mm.
Basically, they're very focused on construction, on factories.
Yeah.
Auto finance is done in some elements in some way, but it's not on the level that Iraq needs.
Yeah.
For every car, like maybe 99% or 99.5% of all cars sold are done on a cash basis,
Yeah.
and if we're talking about there more than a million car sales transactions in Iraq.
Mm.
The number could be even 3 million car transactions if there was a proper auto finance system.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the banks need to change the way they think and the way they do business, or hopefully we'll see more players from outside coming to Iraq and finally taking auto finance. And it cannot be done just by the banks or the loan institute by themselves. It has to be
Mm.
done with the government
Yeah.
because there's different laws that doesn't protect the the credit companies, the loan companies, so they cannot recover their car easily.
Mm.
Example,
Mm.
the court system is not developed so it could speed up some of these cases, or if there's a problem, if there's a default or if there's any payment issues.
Mm.
So there's a lot of elements in it that is still way years behind.
Mm.
There are, however, some car financing here in Iraq, some loans,
Mm.
and basically it's very traditional where you have to be a government employee or you have to put your house or a property in collateral. So there are these types of traditional loans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I know there's not much awareness on financing of cars. And so, do you see integrating this with IQ cars in the future?
Definitely. I
Auto
mean,
finance.
yeah, I mean, it has to. We have to be part of this because um, we are the largest in terms of car dedicated car buyers and owner sellers. So obviously, it will be a natural step for us to provide insurance, provide auto finance for people, making it easier. So our whole vision is to make car buying, selling, and owning very easy for people. And selling car online would be part of that, and providing auto finance will be definitely part of that.
Okay, that's good to know. And it's good that you are thinking in that direction where you want to make the journey for the customers as simple as possible. And that is the key. So yeah, kudos to your vision and thought process with IQ cars
Thank you.
there. Um, the next question I would like to ask is what are some of the common challenges that you think people in Iraq face when trying to obtain car financing and how they can overcome these challenges?
Um, the challenges are basically the limit, the terms for getting a car is very harsh on people. There are a
Yeah,
lot of people working in the private sector, young people that are good people that they just want to buy a nice car, drive a nice car, and they can afford it with their salary, but the banks don't accept private employees from the private sector mostly.
yeah,
And to do this, basically, people have to, ask a parent or uncle to have the loan on their name and then buy it. So basically, it's not easy task for people to do this.
yeah.
However, it's good to know to understand the loan you're taking on, how much they actually cost in the end.
Mm,
There's lots of hidden fees that you might not know, so you need to have everything clear before you take a car loan in Iraq right now.
mm. Yeah, yeah, definitely there are a lot of challenges, but they can be overcome. So thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
Um, this brings me to the last question on um your advice that you would give to someone who is interested in starting a business in Iraq. Like one key advice that you would just tell them.
Take a calculated risk assessment
Okay.
and be prepared to face very, very strong challenges in your life. To be honest, it's that multi, there's so many problems that you could face uh, in Iraq, but the reward hopefully will be huge in the future. I mean, this is all the, you know, everything points out that it points to Iraq will be a very lucrative market for VCs and businessmen.
Yeah. There's a question also asked in the comments for us in
Yeah,
the same aspect that you're talking about.
yeah.
Ali asks, what would uh, push someone to invest or start a business if there are so many hindrances? So I think it's similar to what you just said.
Well, a friend of mine told me something way back, and it fits very well with as a good answer for him. Basically, we are facing a big wall in front of us, and we're banging our heads to to get through it.
Yeah,
But eventually, you have to succeed. I mean, yes, it's gonna hurt. Yes, it's gonna take a long time, but eventually, you're gonna make a hole in that wall and pass through it. And basically, you just need to push yourself and find a way to not think negatively all the time. But it's a challenge. I mean. So yeah, you just have to keep going, even if there are many problems and issues. You just keep on going, and hopefully it will get better.
yeah.
You know.
Uh, Definitely. Anything in the beginning is difficult because you don't know what you're doing. But as you keep on doing, it just simplifies, I guess. And then you just have to keep on doing it and then um, finding ways out of it. Like you are doing, Amir, where you started with IQ cars, but now you're thinking about auto finance, which is another way of growing
Mhm.
IQ cars. It's a complementary thing. So you're just finding ways to how you can make your customer the easiest for the customer to get access to cars. So I think it's a journey, and we should not like just give so much of importance to the hindrances and think about it firstly. Yes, there are hindrances. It's not only in Iraq but everywhere. There are some or the other problems that people face. Yes, in Iraq it's way more and it is difficult, but just starting off and then seeing how things go about is great advice. So thank you so much, Amir,
Thank
for
you,
sharing that. And it was really a pleasure to
thank
speak with
you.
you today. And thank you for sharing your experience, your wisdom, your and I wish all the best to you and IQ Cars.
Thank you.
And we are always in support of you. I know a lot of youngsters who are very passionate about the app and IQ Cars. One of them is my team member as well, who was like really
Good.
excited for this live, and he was like, I really admire Amir and IQ
Thank
Cars.
you.
So yes, you are making a difference there. So thanks so much for everything, and
Mhm.
have a good rest of the evening.
Thanks. You too. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.